Normally when I show up to a customer's house or office, I ask if they have a specific area of concern in their vehicle. That, as you might be able to guess, was the seats in this car, because there were some very, very bad stains. So I started out with my normal process. I sprayed my carpet cleaning solution, and then I agitated it with the drill brush, and then I started to extract. Yum, look at that yummy brown chocolate milk coming out. And this has been my process since I started. I've always done this same process, and I have decided I am going to start changing it up, just because, one, to see if I can get better results with a different product, but two, I'm trying to get away from the Chemical Guys brand, because they are expensive. When I first started detailing, there was a Chemical Guys store, a detail garage near me, just 10 minutes away from where I live, so it was very convenient for me to go and get those products. However, those products are fine for a at-home enthusiast or whatever, but that is not my case. I'm trying to grow a business, and my expenses were very high. These last few months, I sat down and calculated my expenses, and they were far above what I wanted them to be. So I've already thought of my replacement that I'm going to do. I have a whole gallon of this stuff left, and it's concentrate, so it'll take me a while to exhaust it all. But as soon as I do, I'm going to try a different chemical to see if I can get a better result. It's one that I know a lot of other detailers use, and I'm excited to try that out. This seat here is a little bit boring, I admit, so try to not click off, because the back seat is a lot more entertaining. Some really bad stains. You may have wondered if I was going to get that stain on the edge there, and I just wanted to throw this out as a disclaimer, but what you see here in my videos isn't always the entire picture. I don't film the whole thing. So for example, you can see in a lot of my videos, I just do the bottom half of the seat and not the upper. And as you can see in this video, the upper has already been done. There's a little bit of that corner that's a little drier than the rest, and that's because I did that without filming. And I did that because that part's just not as entertaining to watch, not as many stains. Of course, I still do it for the customer, but I try to save you guys time because it's not as worthwhile. Moving on to the back seat, this is where there were some very bad stains. Look at that. Look at that. And you can kind of already see the difference from before and after. If you were to pause it right there at that 50-50 where I was halfway done, there is a large difference, and of course you can see all the stuff just coming out. Now, this car, I don't remember what year it was, but the guy told me he had kids, which he didn't need to tell me that. I already knew that based off of the way this car looked. But this car and the seats were definitely quite neglected, so it's also important that I tell my customers beforehand that they're not going to be perfect. If I ask my customers what the stains are, they can help me target specific stains with certain strategies and tactics for things that specialize in different kinds of stains. However, most of the time when I ask my customers that, they have no idea what the stains are, so they don't even know. And so if they don't know and they've been there just for years, most of the time not everything is coming out. And that's okay, and most of my customers understand that. They just know that they're going for improvement, not perfection. And as you can see here again, I am doing a second pass. I sprayed it again and agitated it, and I'm doing it again, and I'm still pulling out a lot of stuff. So in fact, I did this whole car, and I've been having this, well, let's rewind a little bit. I've been having this problem lately, and it's fairly new to me. I've never had this problem before, so I'm trying to find out what's going on. I don't know if it's because the weather is significantly colder now, or if it's because I'm doing a certain type of cloth material, fabric, or whatever. But the problem is this. When I extract, there are parts like this where I was scratching. There are parts that are they're isolated stains. And after I do the whole thing, real quick, here I am. I pulled out a stronger solution just to see if it would make that budge, and surprise, surprise, it didn't, unfortunately, but I think it helped out the rest of the seat. I don't normally use that solution because it's very powerful, it's very concentrated, and it takes a while to get it out. As you can see, I'm just pulling up straight foam. I don't think it's actually supposed to be used in the extractor, but drastic measure, you know the thing. But that stain did come out with my steamer, which I did after I finished extracting. Anyways, let's get back to it. The problem I've been having is that when I extract, there will be an isolated stain after the fact, and I go to try and treat it again, but the problem with that is that spot becomes wetter than the rest because the rest of it is kind of dried. And when you do this, you need to do the whole seat so it can all dry evenly, and if it dries unevenly, you will be stuck with water stains, which kind of just puts you at square one. Even though it's not dirt or nasty stuff that's inside your seat, it can leave it with a stain. So that's been one of my problems. And the other thing is tannin spots. Tannin is a type of stain where oftentimes as it dries after extracting, you can see these brown marks kind of come to the surface. And what that is, that means that there is a stain inside the cushion, not just on the surface, and as it gets wet, it kind of gets pulled to the surface. So you have to use a neutralizer to use that on those specific stains. And so that's what I have done, and I did. But the problem is, when I use that neutralizer, I spray, and then it kind of gets that wet spot and kind of leaves that stain again, even though it's not as gross. Alright, this is the good stuff. Let's get to this back rear seat where the car seat was. And I spent a bit of time doing these fancy zoom in things, so I hope that you appreciate them. It did take a bit of time. I had to learn how to do it. But just sit back and admire that nastiness. It's so gross. You can see that green thing. I don't know what that was, but look. Oh, sorry, it's on the next pass. Look at that. My goodness. Of course, I had to do this seat several different times. So when I did this car, I did the whole vehicle, and then I waited for it to dry. Also, because we're heading into winter, it's taking a lot longer to dry. I don't know what is... I've got my fan that I pull out, and it helps, but it's definitely taking a lot longer. Normally in the summer, things kind of dry by the time I'm done with the whole vehicle. That is not so much the case anymore. So, unfortunately, I have to make plans and adapt for that. But here I go, hitting it with the second treatment to try and get as much stuff out as possible. And here, as you can see, I'm just going to continue to pull more and more stuff out. But what I was saying is that I did this whole vehicle, but then there were some spots that I knew were from, I don't know, uneven distribution of liquid or whatever. So I had to, in the end, I decided to just redo all the seats right when I was finishing up, when it took me like another hour to finish. And so it did take me a bit longer to do this vehicle, but I was okay with that because I had the time. I wasn't super busy that day, and I knew that it was important to my customer. And look at the green stuff. That green stuff was pretty nasty. I'm not sure what that was, but there's a lot of it. You can see kind of those stains at the bottom of the screen, that brown stuff. That's kind of the tannin stuff that I was talking about earlier. And you can... So I have a neutralizer that I will use after the fact for that. If you're still watching this, 7.5 minutes into this, props to you. I appreciate it. Also, let me know who you are. Are you a detailer like myself, or just someone who likes watching the videos? Let me know what you do for work so we can see what everyone does. So, as you can see, I had to treat this. I don't remember. Is this the third time I had to do this seat? Looking back as I made this video, it made me realize how much time I actually spent on it. And unfortunately, when I made this video, when I did this vehicle, I was a little nervous for what the customer was going to think, because some of the stains, just didn't come out. You can see kind of those ones there. Those ones there, I think, did come out with the steamer that I did after the fact. But there definitely were some, and that's kind of usual. Like I said earlier, not everything comes out. But I was nervous for what my customer was going to think. And here you can see I am doing the back of this seat. I did all of the backs, but I've decided to film this one just because it was pretty gross. But oftentimes when I'm working on a vehicle, and not just with extracting, but other things as well, oftentimes I see all the weaknesses, I guess, the imperfections, the stains, the stuff that doesn't come out, the stuff that doesn't improve. And I think, man, has this even gotten any better? And when I spend so long, so many hours on a vehicle, I forget what it used to look like. So I've had several times where I call my customer out and I'm kind of dreading, thinking like, are they going to even like this? I mean, there's still all these missed spots or whatever. Well, they're not missed spots, but spots from that are just kind of stuck with, that they're going to have to live with. And they'll come out and say, oh wow, it looks so much better. And I have to remind myself, like, okay. And part of me thinks that I see those things just because I know what to look for. If a customer calls me on the phone and says that, oh, it's not that bad, and then it is that bad, something tells me we view things a little bit differently. So I do think that I see things that they, I guess, don't necessarily see. But with this vehicle in particular, the guy came out, and like I said, I did spend a lot longer on this vehicle than I wanted to, because I wanted to make sure his seats were good. Again, you may be thinking, what about the sides or the front of the seat? I do, in fact, do those parts. I just don't normally film them because they're not as dirty, they're not as entertaining to watch, and I try to pick the best things to film because filming does, in fact, slow me down on the job. It'd be much quicker if I never did it, but I do enjoy making these videos, so I do that. Also, I have to say I am sorry for putting my camera right there. I realize you can't see anything coming out of the hose, and that was a failure on my part. I should have put the camera somewhere else so you could actually see. You might be able to see a little bit there, but not really. Anyways, as we get nearer to the end, if you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for sticking around for this long, and let me know what kinds of videos you'd like to see in the future. What kind of videos? Music, no music, voiceover, no voiceover. And stay tuned for the before and after pictures that are coming right on up. Here you can see there are still some stains, but it's definitely a lot better, especially that back seat, especially that side of the back seat. So hopefully he was satisfied.